Hold on. It might cut out. Just give it a few seconds. Yeah, this tablet has developed a quirk where sometimes, well, half the time or more, when I try to take video footage, it'll cut out in the first 10 seconds and just go back to the home screen all by itself without me having to do anything. It just automatically happens all by itself. Now, I want to share some liberated verse, otherwise known as free verse. I call it liberated verse because I myself, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, physically, in every way imaginable, am liberated. I mean, not financially, but hey, who needs money? Anyway, I have food, clothing, and shelter. I have my own place to live. I don't have roommates, thank God. It's the first time I've ever lived by myself, and I was the only person in the house or the building. I have the run of the place, and I live in a safe area. It's not overrun by drug dealers. There's this neighborhood just a few blocks this way and a little bit over. There's like this very scuzzy apartment complex that reminds me of North Omaha, which is pretty much a hellhole for just like society's rejects. Anyway, I have a few poems I've written in the past few weeks. Just inspired by, who knows, Cosmos. My muse. And my muse is a guy. I mean, I don't have female muses. Anyway, let's see. So the first one is called Post. And you know what? I want to hang on one second. And some of my music that I just put together a short time ago, like in the last couple of weeks maybe, or sometime this month, or late last month, using virtual software. Anyway, here's Post. Alright. Underscore. Lacking the straight aspiration. A slightly deviating mind subsequencing the trial, the mistake. The title of the body concluding with subtlety. You don't notice the mark, nor the branch reaching from an earth. The blade disembarks the unknown, divides it consciously into very thin strips of wool, of deception, on which one theory after another is expounded. Now I want to make a note here. The word theory is another word for opinion, either educated guess or uneducated guess. There are both kinds in existence. And most people make uneducated guesses or bad theories and try to pass them off as fact, and they are largely successful. A perfect example, Madison Avenue, reality television, gangster rap, female exploitation, straight hick male inbred socialist chauvinism. The neat blocks on white or off-white or beige stationary, or what have you, maybe 10 million pixels bearing visage, each one alive and thoughtful, device eyeing its owner, servant, and the pretend deity. Those marks on pale blue schools, picked up by the student, unconscious realms of war, butting heads with fear, denying the plane's existence, and rewarded. Guests are arriving at the prophesied standpoint. That soul watched me encounter innocence, and here I'm referring to Lawrence. That soul watched me encounter innocence, he of the 12th mind and 9 of awareness, the starting mind, the source, the coastline, the train, connected to the favored region, deep south. Arriving on track 4, the numbers man, imagining execution, and verses written on air, sort of an eternal book. Ride on the wind and bind it in thought, erase the present, or otherwise known as, it's in the past, forget it. The semi-conscious self, the self-conscious block, a meaningless virtue of color or sound, but not blurred on a definite magnetic track. Destiny holds me fast. It embraces me with promise and sure things, the earth dream. Divided in, and as opposed to the American dream, divided into continents, rising out of the orb after a time, retreating to avoid further confusion. Pain, a dull enamor, rising from fear's nightmare, terrified of love's frequent danger, power off. Peril, threat, snare, trap, treachery, control. Options hidden in locked hypothetical. Give me 1 second, I gotta make a note. Alright. Okay, where was I? Options hidden in locked hypothetical. Can't find the key. There is the person shaped void. Not in digital space, not projected, defining real, defining examples of falsehood. Dysfunction frozen and preserved, a known fact by the learner, coming towards, leaving headquarters, the nuclear family, family of origin, upbringing, switching off the bedroom, pleasantly disturbed, not content, not happy, not completely satisfied, and not settling. Assuming power over his space, as if he had the right. This one's called Figure. I wrote this on the 10th of November, and I made a note in the top margin. It says in quotes, "How great is your want?" And I think that I saw somebody wearing a shirt that said that on it on the front. And it just kind of resonated with me, so I just kind of very quickly just jotted it down. This one's called Figure. The blue Valentine sky, the west, 2 centuries gone. Industrialization borrowed, so people can vice their 4 dimes. Perfect cosmic vision, silhouette very temporary, the bulk once again and thoroughly let down. Frustrated luxury in the empty account. Lincoln's bust smashed into a copper eternity, lying face down in an ally. Dark and unprotected, 48 cent in grave cloth, with the face of a past master, machine impression just fastidious. The microscope reveals the true path, the expensive inked investment implement. I'm probably going to try to publish all this, but I don't know how I'm going to go about it, but I'm going to have faith. All in exchange for vertigo, as if nothing else had meaning. Echo the plummet. The story is supposed and rock. Beside the broken shovel, we cannot go any farther down. Unconsidered options enacted, and the stark supposed contrasts between intelligent machines, society, and sentient humans. The former isn't held back, and I authenticate concrete. To and from, sameness, bizarre normal, bliss. The diagram erases coherent traction, uninterrupted. This one's called In Stone. What once did, who you were, present snatched back from the waiting jaw at the last moment. Taking back the rubber, the column, coordination, tandem, the eye, the hand, and the foot. The element, shield at high speed, destination just blocks away, moments few, unmeasured, hitting soft universes as I travel, quietly hitting auto glass, body of sunlight, waking from the very pale blue, invisible journey. From a window behind my head and slightly then to the right, many photons brighten lids. The switch is thrown in a disembodied voice. It says, here we go. Lid removed, revealing first sight the imposing figure, handing me a smiling, unforgettable icon for me to chew over. Eternal neuron, chemical thought, vibrating rapidly, unnoticed, liquid vision, fluid light, read by a human entity, every frame hand-painted. Epic. 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 Valiant soul shining in the forest of mathematical trees. The tardy woman, my grandmother, early greatness, minutes behind instruction, the rugged, ever-present heart, keeping me in electric. Universal chatter, avoiding switch, narrowly escaping. Here's another one I wrote a little bit later. It's called Quote. On November 14th. The disenfranchised seated. The stump occupied. Cap established cannot be reached for comment or void. The multitudes gathering hunger, thought in residence. Portrait of mankind, a nod of neutrality. The cold pen stubbed out by the curb, silent words oiling the page. The hinge of reckoning, inertia, denying the unnatural. Empty demands, green on pavement. Program misinterpreting rhythm. A moment. The human plug hammering the leak. The expensive magnet, undeniable charm, must be resisted. No promises kept. Empty violence. wandering about a distant substance, keeping the failed experiment at length. Curiosity's limit acknowledged, necessity, survival, fear, and worry. Maleness departs suddenly, turns its back, missing, escaped the analysis, dodging fate, supposed relinquished. Celsius consumed the hand, annoyingly established, unfurled, doomed to darkness. Talent passed down, still as yet unknown. Centuries preserved in unerring sleeve of process image, microwatt transforming information to nearby neural, plasticity of slow, shocking change, significance of entitlement, removing the two parallel bars, horizontal. Out of balance, misconstrued line, slightly. The angry body. The threatening vehicle, the oblivious truck, defying the wind, gentle cosmos, inspiring the next line, nomenclature. The line forms in the depressive state, not undeviating, not theoretical, not imaginary, real as the tattered, forgotten armies. Silent, enraged chauvinism. Unreasonable, defiant account, the reason for personal fame. And I think I should say unseasonable, defiant account, the reason for personal fame. That's less redundant. Chatter, involuble, unheard, unintelligible shapes, movement, the harmless blade, hidden love, scared emotion, the scared emote, the sacred moat. Mower the great chained machine, the mechanical entry, excluding the enemy, serpent. The serpent awaits the slightest miscalculation, joy by numbers, subset, outline, subroutine, flowchart, break in the line, program dismantled and struck. Back to a western home, frontier paved over and built on, a solid foundation, a cold bed, a chilled digit. Now what I've got here is a list of role models, and I'm going to specify here something that I want you to internalize or try to. Listed below are things, people, places, and concepts or ideas that are facets of my identity. A role model does not have to be limited to people you admire. It could be anything positive or ultimately positive, meaning it starts out being traumatic and negative and horrific and chaotic and all that wonderful stuff, and ends up being, ultimately like this really great, leading to this incredible, realization about the self. So it ends up, you kind of grow out of this damp and dank and neglect, and you grow out of that, and then once you blossom, you pretty much like defy your beginnings without actually scorning them. So here we go, and this goes on for there's like 30 pages back and forth of role models. So it's just going to go on for about 20 minutes. All right. Gandhi, Edison, Frank Capra, Lincoln, Lionel Barrymore, Betty Davis, Harriet Tubman, Laurie Anderson, Howard Jones, Tom Bailey, Deborah Harry, Arthur C. Clarke, Margaret Atwood, Andy McCluskey, Kate Bush, Susie Sue, Stacy Weisenfels, Mrs. Scott, Miss Coke, Kathy Sledge, Madonna, Justin Hayward, the young teenage girl that played young Celie Harris Johnson before Whoopi Goldberg was appeared in the film The Color Purple. Whoever that girl was, she also played Harriet Tubman in Harriet, that film that she had just made a few years ago, like in 2019 or so. Margaret Avery, Darth Vader, Alec Guinness, Deidre Hall, Kim Cattrall, Yoda, Luke Skywalker, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Chewbacca, Anthony Daniels, otherwise known as C3, or the voice of C3PO, R2-D2, Great Britain, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, Lady Diana Spencer, Salvador Dali, Gala Dali, The Impressionists, Beethoven, James Spader, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, Anthony Michael Hall, my father, Dr. Robert Manier, Marilyn Hanson, Marilyn Monroe, Michael York, Norma Shearer, not Clark Gable, he's a dickhead, not James Dean, his death was a necessary loss, Julie Harris, Peter Ustinov, Agatha Christie, Maggie Smith, Neo, The Oracle, Carrie Ann Moss, Heather O'Rourke, Winona Ryder, not Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, well, he beats the hell out of Chris Evans, not Sean Penn, Whitney Houston, not Bobby Brown, Charlie Chaplin, Edvard Munch, Henry Ford, Rockefeller, James Stewart, Jean Arthur, Robert Morley, not Sybil Shepherd, what a bitch, Dame Mae Whitty, The Human League, John Fogerty, Erasure, Depeche Mode, Devo, Greer Garson, Toni Collette, Cameron Diaz, Shirley MacLaine, Alfred Hitchcock, Margaret Lockwood, Irene Dunn, Griffin Dunn, I wonder if they're related, Haviland Morris, Cody Mundi, William Shatner, Nichelle Nichols, Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox, Bruce Willis, Bibi Besh, Karen Swales, Suzanne Vega, George Michael, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, Thomas F. Wilson. Lawrence Griffith, Sherry Crawford, Shreveport's finest, nurses and techs at mental health facilities that I've been to. Dale Childress, not his brother Alan. Richard Williams, 1970 to 2016, he's a good friend. He committed suicide. He was clinically depressed. Stu Steinman, and not his codependent wife. She was a human trigger, and she reminded me of Mom. Michaela Sneed, my caseworker and only friend to date. Freya Overby Sutherland, my grandmother, who doubled as my governess. She taught me how to read. She taught me how to talk properly. She taught me syntax, everything. John Sutherland, who was her husband, her first husband, not Charles. Well, John Sutherland was her second husband. Charles Gardner is one of the knots, because he was her first husband and he was a bastard. And she just never recovered from that. Mrs. R.T. Stanley, otherwise known as my paternal grandmother. Max Madden, my paternal grandfather. Garbage, and that's a music group, not actual garbage. Charles Manson, Father Kenneth Paul. He baptized me. He's my godfather. He died recently. Rick Kramer, my first boyfriend. Otto Sellers, my computer science teacher. Edward Allen, my art teacher of my 11th and 12th senior year. Karen Wagaspack, my algebra teacher, my freshman and junior year. Zulma Borders, my English teacher of my freshman year. Matt Buer, a guy I had a crush on in high school. Ginger Thomas, David Murray, David Lee Roth. He's a choir boy compared to the artists that are popular today. And I use artists extremely loosely. Sammy Hagar, Steven Spielberg, Oprah Winfrey, Danny Glover, Tina Turner, Ike Turner. Keep in mind, he's not one of the knots, because he made her into what she is now. Cat Stevens, I put like an asterisk beside him. His music, his voice, his singing, it dominated the airways 50 years ago. People were hearing Morning is Broken, Father and Son, Wild World, Peace Train. It goes on. He had just like about 12 #1 hits that played just. I mean, the man, if he had not made any more albums than just the 3 or 4 that he started out with, he would be set for life. Steve Perry, he was the lead singer for Journey. David Warner, Terry Gilliam, John Neville, Sarah Polly, Valentina Corteza, Bellini, Keir Dullea, James Mason, or at least for a while, until I just kind of realized that he really just was sort of a no talent. Sue Lyon, she played the role of Lolita in Lolita, and she was really the only ray of light in that entire film. Not Shelley Winters. That woman could play my mother if they made a movie about her life, if she were alive. Sidney Poitier, Carol O'Connor, Jean Stapleton, not Maureen. She was a terrible actress. She was a drama queen. Sally Struthers, Norman Lear, Sherman Hemsley, and whoever played Louise, I can't remember her name. My memory's not what it used to be, but then how could I possibly know that? November, April, technology, the light bulb, Mark Almond, Jermaine Stewart, Michael Jackson, Janet. She calls herself Janet. She does not use her surname when she's just Janet, and that's fine. Mia Farrow, Thomas Dolby, Gary Newman, Enya, Midge Uri, Kurt Russell, Vangelis, How did I forget him? Goldie Hawn, William Hurt, Meryl Streep, Gina Davis, Belinda Carlisle, Alanis Morissette, Kurt Valiquin, Rosamund Pike, Helen Mirren, Chris Christopherson, Cheryl Ladd, Paul Henreid, Gladys Cooper, Jeff Bridges, Kyle MacLachlan, Julie Andrews, Glennis Jones, David Tomlinson, Jay Davidson, Mary Boland, Aldous Huxley, Kaya Luke, and he played the doctor in Alice, the Chinese doctor who had all these herbs that could like turn her into a very bold and daring, as opposed to shy and reserved and like a wallflower. She became like this very powerful, intuitive woman suddenly, under the influence of that first herb that he gave her. Peter Sellers, the director Stanley Kubrick, not Marlon Brando. I hate him. Vivian Leigh, Olivia de Havilland, Leslie Howard, Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Gene Hackman, Lynn Ford, Jessica Lange, not Jack Nicholson. He is a major prick. Shelley Duvall, Sam Elliott, Cher, Sonny Bono, Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, Omar Sharif, Bashar Hijazi, a guy that just like totally fell head over heels for me, just instantly, just bam, just love at first sight. He got a blowjob out of the deal. Let's see. Sue Squibb, she was a manager at a Burger King that I worked at in 1995-96. She was very hard-nosed, very strict, but she was probably the best in the business because of that. She never backed down, she never apologized, and she had a sense of humor, and she was actually quite compassionate and caring when the time came for it. Rosemary Sutton, she was a facilitator at the Friendship Program in Omaha before it was shut down due to COVID, and she pretty much just kind of took my hand for almost 9 years, and befriended me and was very supportive. She was old enough to be my mother. She told me once that in 1970, when I was just like 1.5, 2, when I was having hernia surgery, that God had come to her in like a just appeared to her and said, one day you are going to teach someone. You're going to guide them to their destiny. And she said that every so often she'd be like, is this the one? Is this the one? And God would say, nope, not yet. And so this went on until 2010. So we're talking 40 years. She just kept asking, is this the one? Is this the one? No, not yet. But when she encountered me, at that time I was skinny. I was about 180 pounds, soaking wet with a bowling ball in my lap. I was defeated. I was hunched over. I was just completely. I was just totally out of touch with my emotions. I was codependent, needy, susceptible, naive. I still believed that I needed to find a man in my life to feel complete and happy and whole and content and fulfilled. I wasn't, anyway. So when she came across me, God was like, he's the one. Get to work. And so I think I kind of initiated the alliance, because I started talking to her. I kind of pulled her aside and said, look, I really appreciate what you said in that last group about being grateful and showing your gratitude and everything, and I'm going to try to do that. And then from then on, it was just like the rest is history. She kept telling me over and over and over and over, you have a destiny that you can't even possibly imagine right now because you're not ready to know yet. Because you don't believe in yourself yet. But once you believe in yourself, once you really figure out how to do that. Now, she never put it in so many words, but this is what she meant. Anyway, let's see what else. Burt Reynolds, very handsome gentleman. He will die sexy. Olympia Dukakis. Bob, some guy I met at the run. Really sexy trucker. We had a one-night stand. I'll never forget it. 1993. That was almost 30 years ago. Let's see. Chris Hemsworth. I think I know him. Leonard Nimoy. DeForest Kelly. Bert, the guy that was played by Dick Van Dyke in the movie Mary Poppins. Lady Miss Keir, a female singer. Robin Curtis, she played Saavik in Star Trek 3. Patrick Stewart, Jules Verne, Maya Angelou, Amy Tan, Andy Warhol, Grace Jones, Alison Moyer, James Curran, my boyfriend from 1992. We were together for 9 months and I got sick of him, or he got sick of me, I'm not sure. Maybe both, who knows. Not Emily Blunt, at least until I see her in something decent. She was horrible as Mary Poppins in Mary Poppins Returns. She did not sing a single note, and she had just zero. I mean, she did not look like Julie Andrews for one. She dressed like her, but no, I'm sorry. Disney owes me $20 plus tax because I threw my money away on that. I saw it maybe twice, and I threw it out. And I'll probably hold on to the original Mary Poppins film for the rest of my life. I don't even recognize that sequel. Not every movie has to have a sequel, and not every movie has to be recycled over and over and over again ad nauseum. Dune is a perfect example. Every 5 years they come up with a new one. I'm faithful to the original, and I'm not going to apologize for that. It's not because I'm afraid of trying something new. I just don't see the point. Karen Dotrice and Matthew Farber, they were the two children in Mary Poppins. Elsa Lanchester, she played Katie Nana. Hermione Bradley, she was one of the domestics. Tim Robbins, an author. Richard Brautigan, at least until I heard his recording of his voice. He sounded quite unlike I imagined. He sounded like a brain-dead California beach nut, imitating Richard Brautigan. Walt Disney, not his descendants. Thomas More, Peter Pan, Kathy Bates, Christopher Plummer, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, very funny dude. Linda Hamilton, Mary Steenburgen, Elizabeth Taylor, anyone who has the guts to accept me for who I am. Walter Carlos, the inventor of the Moog synthesizer, the very first commercial synthesizer. He made a record called Switched on Bach in 1968. The year I was hatched. And some of my earliest memories is of hearing that record playing. I have lost respect for Mel Gibson. I didn't have a whole lot to begin with. Alexander Graham Bell, Margaret Sutherland, my great aunt. She died in 1975. She took me to Sears to see Winnie the Pooh and have popcorn. And and she would always buy me a helium balloon. And I was just, for a child, that's a big deal. Like Mary Poppins said, sometimes a small thing can be very important. Mr. Badley, Freshman Civics, Any Man I Find Irresistible, Katharine Hepburn, anyone who dares to question, challenge, and or stand up to the system and walk away. Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn, Julie Holliday, She died way too young. Whoever invented stencils, whoever built Stonehenge, Peter O'Toole, the ancient Egyptians, John Lone, he played the Last Emperor. He was starred in The Last Emperor. He played the emperor. He was born he was like 3 years old when he was made emperor. David Byrne, he composed the music for the movie. He was also lead singer for Talking Heads and went off on his own for a few albums. The Weymouths, Chris Frantz, Rick Ocasek, the punk on the bus from Star Trek 4, Eli Whitney, Frederick Douglass, not Malcolm X, not the Black Panthers, although I guess they made a certain amount of sense. After all, us whites did bring them here against their will. Not plantation owners pre-Civil War. Whoever invented the microwave. Testosterone. William Randolph Hearst, unsure about him, he has caused a great deal of chaos and havoc and discord. Ann Baxter, Charlton Heston, Orson Welles, Cynthia Mandel, a facilitator of the Friendship Program, construction workers, architects, plumbers, electricians, mountain men, truckers, bristling, looming, hulking, mature muscle men, Dwight Edwards, Harley Davidson, cashiers and bureaucrats, they have the toughest inside job in the world. Africa, Europe, Betsy Ross, George Washington, Jack Warner, Arnold B. Mayer, Paramount, John Hughes, the First Amendment, concrete, grass, clouds, atmosphere, the Van Allen radiation belt, Van Allen, the Earth's core, stars, galaxies, Jupiter, the sun. Not Robin Williams, who's like the biggest fucking dork in existence. God. Janitors. Actors, and I mean people who are not simply celebrities for its own sake, but the ones for whom acting is a calling. They're not in it for the money or the fame or the glory. They're in it because that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're there for. Paris Hilton. She was like the original celebrity just because she was a celebrity. Not the Kardashians. Not reality TV. Not fairy tales. Totally unrealistic and very dangerous. Not Kanye West. Ebonics, well, it's better than mumble. English, German, the Great Depression. Lorraine Hansberry, she wrote A Raisin in the Sun. Nathaniel Hawthorne, humor. Tragedy, musicians, playwrights, Celeste Holm. George Sanders, Judy Garland, Angela Lansbury, Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde, T.S. Eliot, Aslan. And who was the guy that wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? C.S. Lewis. Write that down. Benjamin Franklin, Mary Shelley, the Casio Corporation, Texas Instruments, Swepco, trees. Anyone considered by society as weird and subsequently disregarded. Home, the drum machine. They have just as much soul as your conventional snare drum. Just because you're not just sweating your just out of your skin and knocking your eyeballs right out of their sockets and beating the shit out of an animal skin drum, it doesn't mean it doesn't have soul. That's a load of bullshit. The basic compiler, meaning the basic programming language which I learned in high school. The TRS-80, otherwise known as the very first mass-produced home computer, 1977. Cute homeless men from a distance. Veterans' tattoos when done properly. Levi Garrett, The Old West. Lauren Green, P.T. Barnum, Elephants. Michael Landon, sorry. Popcorn, The Silver Screen, Janet Gaynor. She was in the first color adaptation of A Star is Born. It was in color. It was filmed in 1936, one of the very first full-length color movies ever made. Janet Gaynor. Fanny Brice, and not the empty-headed twit who starred in Funny Girl. There is no resemblance whatsoever. James Caan, Francis Ford Coppola, the Hopi Indians, the Mayans, paint, civilization, not casinos, penmanship, text, and I'm not talking about text messaging. I'm talking about actual words on paper, written in ink, by hand, not typed on a touchscreen. Education, culture, theater, opera, Tainted Love, and I mean the song Tainted Love by Soft Cell, their first international mega hit. Not the straight, hick, inbred, chauvinistic male establishment. They are disgusting. Not wannabes. Lillian Gish, Mary Pickford, the silent film era, Rudolph Valentino. Black and white film, Technicolor, London, 1910, refinement, air conditioning, heat. My bed, which is uninfested. My apartment, my stove, the seasons, romance, rationality, not rationalization. The difference. Timepieces, rights, individuality, clothing, food, shelter, my guardian angels, human goodness and ingenuity, innovation, evolution, mythology, comic books, comics, and I mean the funny ones, not just any comic. Not hippies, not big liquor, not big tobacco. Rules, laws, cause and effect. The cosmos. Ice cream. Garbage men. They have probably the toughest job in the entire world. Keys, locks, idiocy, absurdity, fascination, modern art, melody, beards or facial hair, muscles, penises, mojo, none. No, I'm not going to say that. Stamina, courage, love, hate, usefulness, color, paper, ink, the vinyl LP, magnetic tape, sound reproduction, the brain, neurons, electricity, lists, the soul, faith, overalls, gravel, rural areas, nature. nature, football, animal magnetism, talent, wire, sex. Christianity, there are some positive aspects. The camera, memory, forgetfulness, age, styrofoam, petroleum, adversity, vocal cords, eardrums, rhythm, language, poverty, and I mean poverty of spirit, character, thought, electrochemistry, ignorance, and I mean deliberate ignorance, such as what happened this afternoon. This really cute guy who spoke to me once before, but just instantly lost interest as soon as I opened my mouth, and he just drifted off and was just oblivious once again. Just totally forgot all about me. He came up to me while I was writing stuff in my notebook, because my mind was just like a dam that had broke, and I had my headphones on. He approached me, he started talking to me, and I kept writing. I did not acknowledge that he was even there. He tried for about 30 seconds to get my attention, and about halfway into that, I just turned my back and faced the other way and pretended like he wasn't even there. And you know what? It didn't even matter, because he didn't pursue the issue. He just went right back to just being totally oblivious, back to the center of his own little universe. So it didn't make any difference. If I had spoken to him, I would have regretted it, because he would have just treated me like a non-entity. Okay. Character, thought, electrochemistry, ignorance, intention, originality, logic, peace, order, sleep, privacy, creativity, free will, satire, Jane Austen, concentration, oxygen, gratitude, knowledge, and knowledge based on facts. Not all knowledge is based in fact. And that's what a lot of people aren't getting. Not all information is true, such as what you read on the internet or see on television, or in the pages of gossip magazines such as People or The Inquirer or In Touch. I don't know why they call it that. They probably call it that for the same reason they call reality TV. It's such a total misnomer. Let's see. Kindness, charity, honesty, modesty, truth, not redundancy, choice, joy, microtech, the laser, genius, the word no, present moment awareness or mindfulness, praise, rejection, mercy, avoidance, lessons, learning, word retention, genetics, hot water, ice, soap, self-sufficiency, practicality, serendipity, timing, forgiveness, sincerity, insincerity, manipulation, ritual. Not head games. I do not engage in that. Rock and roll, the now essentially derelict music industry. Not society. All forms of repression and or oppression. Acceptance. The calculator. Bluetooth tech. Canneries. Slaughterhouses. Masonry. Steel. Automation. Urbanization. Solitude. Digital tech. The SD card. Formica. Carpet. Cleanliness. Glass. Self-expression. Unconcern, and I mean deliberate unconcern, such as I displayed for the very first time today in my entire life. I just stood so firm. I was just as solid as a rock. I did not play his game. I just completely and totally 100% refused to make any kind of move at all. I just stood there, and I was buried in my notebook and my music, and I did not look up at him. And he was talking to me like he knew who I was, like I was one of his drinking buddies, or like I was straight. So obviously, we're not going to have anything in common, because I don't know anything about women, cars, or football. That just, that does not enter into my day-to-day. And somehow I survived. I just don't know how. Let's see, what else? Parentheses. Spice, power when used sensibly. Responsibility, respect. Self-respect and respect for others and your elders, and for people who are younger. Leisure, boldness, purpose, the pecking order, gravity, the work ethic, effort, boundaries, discovery, the grandmother cell, disgust, fear, attention to detail, authenticity, not inauthenticity, teachers, paradox, sanctity, change, grief, carbonation, anger, righteous indignation, envy, not gluttony, the microphone, the planetarium, dichotomy, significance, not complacency, not negligence, dishes, flattery, non-arrogance or belligerency, infrastructure, upholstery, realization or the epiphany, reality on reality's terms. And I have like a little paragraph here about that. Note: Madison Avenue organized religion or organized crime and political correctness, all conspiring to teach the general public ignorance and bad manners, have plugged in or applied the word reality to that type of entertainment to convince and totally deceive humanity and or the free world that reality TV is authentic and should be believed in spite of the absurdity of its content. But anyone with two brain cells to rub together will see right through it and immediately. Ditto social media, which is just about as social as the prison system, or what I imagine it would be. I've never been incarcerated. It's something that a lot of people just find astounding. Or an inner city homeless shelter on Skid Row. Paul, some guy I knew, I don't know his surname, but we rode the bus together to work. He worked at Jimmy John's, I worked at the MSR group further out west. But I just kind of had a huge crush on him. I especially appreciated the bulge between his legs. Let's see, Roger, I met him at Lasting Hope in 2010. It was like my first time I was there. He started opening up about what happened to him when he was 6 years old. And I think that he felt the same way about me that I felt about him. He was a nice man. And I would have gone to the ends of the earth for him if he asked me to. Manners, spirituality, morals, values, irritation, patience, ambition, time, geography, beauty, innocence, anticipation, silence, feelings, sensitivity, resolve, science fiction, subtlety, 2016. Laughter, approbation, touch, Alison Sweeney, determination, discipline, desire, not charm. I am totally against that. Surprise, indifference. Once I learned how to do it myself. Not potato salad. Christmas, ultimatums, spunk, population control, consequence, affection, tenderness, despair, desperation, the human ego, the extra self. And I mean the unaffected extra self that has always been a counterpart or a fixture in my life. I guess you could call it the superego, because it was just like, it didn't matter what life threw at me, and I had a lot of curveballs thrown at me in my time, and a good number of them just knocked me flat. But in spite of that, there was the extra self that was just untouched by progress or urbanization or organized religion or organized crime or the drug trade or the skin trade or the sleazy singles bars or dating sites or my family of origin, which just, yeah, we'll get into that. Trepidation, damage control, crisis, the unexpected, aviation, mysticism, point of view, not true love. And I mean real, actual love here. I'm not talking about, what the way Hollywood romanticizes it and turns it into something it never was, is, or ever could be. Or how fairy tales have done pretty much the same thing and have warped everyone's minds. Self-love, the only kind that's real and worth pursuing. Without it, the pursuit of love from another, which is required of love, is pointless. Goes on. Militant feminism, health, wisdom, and in parentheses, when you learn a lesson properly, you don't have to ever learn it again. And in quotes, a lesson learned is a pathway closed forever, something that I made up 22 years ago, and it's true. If you fail to learn it, the lesson will present itself to you again. Rinse, repeat. Purity, wholeness, in parentheses, this is not accomplished by believing that you don't deserve to take up space. Although 99 times out of 100, people come across that quite honestly because of what they're put through in this world that they are thrown in. Space, and I'm referring here to emotional breathing room. Example, I need space. It's not you, it's me. Translation, it's you. Fresh air. Refusal, meaning refusing to participate or get involved in something that would introduce an unstable element or cause you regret or shame. Optimism, lust, trust, discernment, error, destiny, clarity, balance, reverse psychology, sarcasm, nutrition, continuation, and I mean in the face of just total despair. Perspective, rest, willingness, and meaning, eagerness to see a situation or any given situation from a point of view other than your own to the best of your ability. Teachability, openness, and I mean true openness, genuine willingness to keep an open mind when you are tempted not to, versus just pretending to be accepting and friendly and nice just to get what you want. Intra-connectedness. Intra. And that means being connected with, you being in touch with your, what's inside you. And there's like a universe inside each of us. But we are pretty much all taught by society and the media and organized religion and reality television that there's nothing of value whatsoever inside any of us. And I labored under the delusion that was true for a very, very, very long time. We're talking decades here. And you can only believe something that isn't true for so long But once you just even have the slightest amount of skepticism, everything changes. Or everything starts to change. Your life is on a different path. Suddenly. Service, commitment. Here I say, come what may, determination to see it through, understanding the value of not giving up when things are at their worst, optimism, the ability to look beyond the present moment and aspire for something better, unwillingness to settle for non-functionality. Perfectionism. Now, there's nothing wrong with this to a point, but knowing when to stop and smell the roses. Perfectionism is simply full functionality. Nothing can be further added or subtracted without compromising or jeopardizing that functionality. The gut feeling, conscience, not the scientific community. Stuff and nonsense. The nuclear family. Now, this is one of those things that's ultimately a good thing because of how much I've learned. An example of ultimate positivity. I learned much from my family of origin, but as soon as I could get away, I did. It was treachery, nonstop. Christmas was hell. Just greed, self-serving, egotistical, dictatorial plutocracy. Ones in authority wielded power. Power addicts, corrupted, self-satisfied, self-righteous, brother and mom, stepdad, and society in general. And here, I've got like all this stuff I added in. The nuclear family, or at least my idea of it, or my exposure to it, was snobbery, darkness, avoidance, indifference, oppression, suspended animation, neglect, maltreatment, injustice, abuse, wickedness, conspiracy and collusion, scheming and plotting, hypocrisy, the double standard, perversion, incest, moral bankruptcy, greed, false holiness, condescension, inconsistency, dehumanization, being underestimated on a consistent basis, coldness, emotional unavailability, despair, fear, terror, rejection, and I mean unreasonable and irrational. And it's like I have like a kind of a bracket, kind of bracketing this off, and then off the side it says, a child, the human marionette. Forced to enable these attitudes as a condition of their continued survival and remaining at home versus being thrust into the foster care system. Feelings are disregarded, creating shame, fear, pain, suicidal ideation, low self-image, destruction of resolve, and general feeling of defeat. Also, auto-blaming for things the child is not responsible for, and no one stops to correct them, causing false belief systems to be installed within the human psyche. Also, I learned in particular that my family of origin, once my stepdad stepped in, hey, there's a parallel, and took over the role of father unit, that ultimately the system keeping it afloat was non-functional where I was concerned. Mom, dad, and brother were just people, peachy, whereas I suffered terribly at their hands. I was the designated dishwasher, trash bin, broom, dustpan, cook, maid, and toilet for the entire family. My work was never done to anyone's satisfaction, so sometimes I slacked on my chores as I figured my work would be unsatisfactory anyway. Naturally, I was punished either for not doing my chores in a timely manner, or just right, or at all. It's a wonder I graduated high school versus dropping out early. In my senior year, I managed to be average. Considering what I was up against, the odds, that's a miracle, especially because the school that I went to had higher grade point standards than your typical public high school. You had to maintain a 2.5 or a C+ or above to continue attendance. And in the last thing that I thought of was self-restraint. I want to read something real quick. Hang on. And I should also mention frustration, because it was just a hallmark of my existence for just forever. Now, between, say, 1996 or 1997 and this year, I came up with original quotes that just pretty much reflect certain universal cosmic truths that just are absolutely irrefutable. In 1996, I came up with, frustration is a luxury that no one can afford. And I really didn't understand what I was saying. It just kind of came to me out of thin air. It took a long time for me to figure out what that meant. Peace is no accident, 1997. Now, it's not something that just happens all of a sudden, just out of the blue. It happens as a result of self-reflection, introspection, soul-searching, and just, we're talking relentless soul-searching, not just, doing it for half an hour and quitting. And just deciding that I deserve better than what I've got, and that I'm meant for something more than what I have, and who I think I am, or I've been led to believe by the people that want to keep me in the dark. Defy the social order, think, 1996. A lesson learned is a pathway closed forever, 2000. The only thing wrong with being wrong is thinking there's something wrong with it, 2014. There's no prisoner like one who does not know he is not free, 2016. Until you face the truth, it will be perceived as a threat. If you think there's something wrong with you, then you are watching too much television. Okay, now here I wrote something on the 16th of this month called The Slight Pause. There's an extreme likelihood that this has never occurred to anyone before, including myself. But you, whoever you are, have the right to take up space and be who you really are. You do not have to dance to the rhythm that the mass media and society and the church hands you. If any of you have seen Logan's Run, a film which mercifully no one has had it in their hands yet to duplicate, imitate, or recycle, towards the end of the film, and this takes place 248 years from now, Logan 5, played by Michael York, stood up and called out to a large group of people they did not have to die at the age of 30. They all laughed and proceeded to the daily carousel ceremony, believing that they were going to witness people being renewed and reborn, when in fact this did not actually happen. He was sort of like Soylent Green. Soylent Green is people! So at the very end, he was captured and forced into interrogation and said there is no sanctuary, and the robot voice kept saying that does not program. Logan's insistence that there was no sanctuary caused the robot interrogator to short circuit, and the entire dome city was brought down and destroyed. Sort of like social media. There's like this underground. In his travels with Jessica 6, they found an old man played by Peter Ustinov. He was well into his late 60s, and he was living in what was once Washington, D.C., in an old abandoned congressional building and surrounded by cats. Logan and Jessica brought him to the Dome City, and he met everybody at the close of the story. In the Dome City, everyone was living a hedonistic lifestyle, pursuing only pleasure, but each one of them had to die on their 30th birthday. Logan's occupation was to terminate anyone who tried to defy the system and live beyond their 30th birthday. His partner on the force, Francis Seven, played by Richard Jordan, told him at the beginning of the film, when you question, it slows you down. That's all for now.